Okay, hello and welcome everybody to today's Sigstore community meeting. Thank you all for joining, and we're going to kick off as usual with the project round robin. So starting with Rico, do you have any updates there?
I want to give actual record people a chance before this is just me whining, actually.
I've been on PTO the last few days, but I can make a poor man's attempt at it, and it can be corrected if my information's out of date. I know we've been trying to push towards a definition of the 1.0 release of Recore. We have a couple PRs that have been going in to help clarify API status, as well as some bug fixes that have gone in of late. But that's the definition and burn down of 1.0 has been the main focus for Recore over the last few weeks, as far as I'm aware.
Nobody's arguing with that, so sounds good.
Yeah, Zach, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to be incredibly unhelpful and say there's a bug and I would like it fixed and I have no idea how to fix it. But it seems like possibly one of the recent Recore releases is resulting in cosine signatures flaking out intermittently. It's enough that a couple downstream open source projects have seen it, including Salsa Framework. We've seen it internally at ChainGuard. And so I would love to help. I just have no idea how. But basically, I just want to call this out, and because it seems maybe worth prioritizing. And so if I can have assistance in prioritizing it, and again, I'm happy to help dig into it, though I don't know that I have the context.
I'm thinking probably Fosra and maybe myself. And if you're interested, we can start trying to chase this down. And if anybody else has expertise in this and wants to, I mean, the process for chasing down the last one was long. And of course, you know, when we see it, we're like, oh, but I don't know if it's something similar. You know, I'm trying to think about things that have, I think the first thing would probably be to look at what's gone out in Recore recently that's touched inclusion proofs. So maybe we can set up some time to think, try to do a little bit of group chasing down bug.
Great.
Also, I just volunteered you to help look at a bug, by the way.
The one you filed about Recore flakes.
Oh, I just jumped in. Did I miss some context?
No, this is your bug. I'm just saying I would like it fixed.
I'll have some time at the end of the week to look at it. It's likely probably I'm not clear what version of Recore was running at the time. So I don't even know if the fix for this that it was in.
Someone complained about it this morning or last night, I think. So
Yeah,
I think it's still gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
don't
I
know
think the
whether
question,
whether it's an additional problem to the fix that I already made or whether the fix would fix it.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. So I'm happy as long as y'all are working on it. And I volunteer myself if you want to rope me in. I want to avoid too many cooks. But feel free to reach out if I would be helpful.
Okay, great. Thanks for highlighting that, Zach. And Falsio.
because I heard Recore 1.0, I thought to also just give a brief update on Falsio 1.0. I think it's in a pretty good state. There are two issues I believe we were tracking for Falsio 1.0, one for adding some additional tests, and one very small one around enforcing that identities are the way that we expect that they are. For example, an email from an identity provider providing email actually is giving us identities that looks like an email. The latter should be very quick to add. Planning on hopefully doing that this week. The tests, there's a little discussion on if this is a GA blocker or a fast follow. I'm going to be approaching it as just trying to get as many tests in as possible. But I think we're getting to a fairly good state. I brought up in our GA sync this week, we'll probably want to do a release candidate once we have these in. Soon-ish. And I think, I don't know what was said for Recore 1.0 because I missed the beginning, but I think it's the same thing here. We need to decide how long we want to have a release candidate out. We definitely don't want to cut a release candidate, wait just a day, and then cut 1.0.
Sounds good. Anyone, anything to add or questions? Okay, yeah, all the best cutting that RC candidate. Anything on cosine?
I think it's worth noting we had a security advisory go out, and I'm finding that right now it's pasted. Feel free to take a look at this. Thank you to Asra and Cody for helping out with getting the fixes in for that. Here it is. The TLDR is there were a number of verification issues with verified blob. And this goes through each of them. This also fixes an issue that we described publicly around the verification of expired certificates. So please update cosine, especially if you're doing anything with verifying blobs.
Yeah, no, thanks for highlighting that. Okay, and git sign. We have an update here. Who added that in? Go ahead.
Yeah, so just a small update, though this isn't specific to just getSign because it also affected cosine. There's a fix to Sigstore for fixing the out-of-bound flow. This also is coupled with some discussion in the Sigstore issue about, since Google is deprecating out-of-bounds OAuth anyway, do we want to just deprecate it entirely and just sort of fall back to device flow for OAuth? So if you're interested, we should probably create another issue in Sigstore to discuss this more. But if anyone has any hot takes, I would love to hear them. I'm generally in favor of it. I don't think it makes a huge difference for what we want to do, as long as we can still authenticate without a browser and like a headless VM, something like that.
Yep, I +1 that. I think that sounds good. As long as the browserless flows are still supported, and it seems like device is effectively the replacement for out of band at this point. So.
Anyone else? Comments? Okay, moving on. Yeah, so clients or root project. I see we have an update for Sigstore and Golang. This looks interesting. Zach, do you wanna?
Yeah, less an update than a shower thought that I wrote down. But one of the things I've been noticing is there's a little bit of friction to using Sigstore as a library in Go, which is a little bit ironic given that that's where all the infrastructure is, and in theory would be the best implementation. I think that's actually related. I think cosine and all the other code was kind of we didn't have any prior art to learn from, and when we were building it, and so the structure of the code's a little off. The sort of API interfaces that are exposed are a little off, and I think totally like that's how software works. But it would be nice if the experience for library users in Go was a little bit better. And I have a proposal, I think, to do that. Feel free to rip it to shreds. I'll probably play with some of these ideas regardless in a repo that's unofficial for a while and see if anything fun comes out of it. But the long and short of it is I'm interested in introducing another repository called Sigstore Go. That would be analogous to the Sigstore Python, Sigstore RS, Sigstore JS, and Ruby Sigstore. So thanks for breaking the combo, Ruby folks. But would basically be a language library client for Go, and I think that would sit. For now, it would just be an experimental on its own thing. In the long run, if that goes well, we would possibly refactor cosine to depend on that, and move a lot of logic out of cosine, and make cosine a relatively thin shim that mostly does OCI stuff and so on. So feedback welcome, including positive feedback. Thank you folks in the chat if you want to stroke my ego. But yeah, feedback welcome, and I'll think on it a week or two. If there's nothing super negative, I will probably experiment. And if you have good ideas, I'm happy to include you also in experimenting as well. So reach out to me in Slack or the stock.
What's grousing, Zach?
Whining. Yeah. Sorry, and I want to recognize that in this meeting, I've basically had two agenda items that were me complaining about things and not fixing them myself. So hopefully this one I will ultimately do some work towards myself.
Yeah, no, just echoing some of the comments. I think it's a great idea, and certainly I feel from a user perspective, having Sigstore Go as a distinct client makes a lot of sense, especially as we're trying to piece together the landscape and tell folks how to navigate and what they should be using. Yeah, I guess call to action, folks. Please take a deeper look at the proposal. Any updates on the well-named language clients? Do you have anything Java, Python, or Rust? JavaScript, Root?
I guess I'll just shout out, even though it's sort of unrelated, that Python's recent release now is signing with Sigstore, which is slightly related to the Python client here, since it mentions using that to verify. But we also just fixed a bug in Sigstore, which will go into Cosign, that will allow Cosign to also verify the signatures on the Python website, since previously the way that the certificates were presented, there was a bug.
Was that a bug which had something about a PEM error? I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, cool. Yeah, no, so some folks highlight that. So yeah, great to hear that's fixed. Okay, but yes, I think that's huge. So yeah, thanks for highlighting that. Really nice to see Python artifacts now. Sigstore signed. Okay, Sigstore GA. Luke or Bob to talk about this.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to defer to maybe Hayden or Simon, because I wasn't at the GA meeting yesterday, so I don't have the latest.
I'll take a stab at it, and Simon, feel free to chime in too. We don't have too many more updates. We've went through all of the open tasks, found that a number of tasks are still open. So there was some discussion around looking at burn down to try to figure out why things are still open, and figure out what do we need to do to get things wrapped up. There's some open GA candidates, so we've asked the TAC to please take a look at those in this week's TAC meeting. Some of these include issues that came out of the game day discussion, and I think there's just some other open bugs that have either come out on call or other issues.
Great, thanks for that, Hayden. Okay, moving on. So yeah, switching tack from the project roundups and GA to looking at docs, outreach, and events. So we'll skip straight to the Hacktoberfest section. So folks may be aware, Hacktoberfest is coming up in October. There's already been some chatter in the Slack channel. I think there's definitely a lot of interest from folks in participating in Hacktoberfest. So yeah, I wanted to highlight it here. This year's Hacktoberfest, each repo has to opt in. So in the past, there have been issues with spam, and repos who haven't wanted to participate, they end up getting spammed with like very trivial pull requests, which can be exhausting for maintainers. So as to counter that, this year we do have to explicitly opt in. So I think we wanted to start thinking about which repos do want to opt in, and as base requirements, I believe they need like some folks who are willing to review what's coming in, and also a set of issues which can be tagged with Good First Issues or Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, I could add a little more context too. Yeah, for folks who don't know, I'm Lisa Taliaferri. I've been on the Hacktoberfest advisory committee the last 2 years, and after they started doing the opt-in, things have been a lot better for maintainers, in my opinion. And this year they want to focus on non-code contributions. So our plan is to focus on the docs repo in particular, which could definitely use some love. But I think it would be great to also think about how we could intentionally label some good first issues for code contributions to grow our community too. And I'm happy to work with folks on that in the Slack channel, or we could also have like a separate meeting to discuss if there's interest. Erica, I don't know if you want to add anything from your perspective too.
No, just if you need any help or any guidance or anything, that we can reach out to us. And also, yes, just what Lisa said, for docs, we can really improve the docs. It would be nice.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks for that. And just seeing some comments. Yeah, so Hayden's recommending we opt the services like Rico and Falsio out as we're pushing towards 1.0 and shouldn't add to unnecessary work. I think that sounds good, and I can put that out as like, here's what we're proposing, and share that with the wider Slack channel. Cosine looks like it possibly opt in, just because we do have a bunch of good first issues, and I know there was interest in Slack. Any thoughts on that repo specifically?
Yeah, broadly, I think Hayden's take is a good one. I think, we want to keep movement in the services focused on GA blockers. Cosine actually might be quite a good fit because many of these are not particularly urgent issues. They'd be relatively easy to mentor folks through. It shouldn't be quite the time commitment that some that you might need to get up to speed on the services. So I think Cosine is, if we can find folks who are willing to volunteer their time to mentor and review, and I'll start by saying I'm happy to do it. Oh yeah, docs. I love docs. Hopefully, Lisa, in your experience, do folks contribute to docs in Hacktoberfest?
Yeah, they do. I think what we would want to try to have issues for good first issues for docs too, and make sure that they're like meaningful contributions and not just like a change of like an adjective or something like that. Sometimes you get PRs like that.
Cool. Okay, this sounds good. Sounds like maybe I'll put together a little landing doc for Hacktoberfest and a place where people can sign up as mentors or as just support, helping identify issues and things. And then if there's any other repos we haven't mentioned, or any of the language clients, if folks are interested in welcoming new contributors in a position to do so for Hacktoberfest, yeah, you can add it to that doc. And Lisa, I've seen some things about Pretember. Can you say what that is and whether we should be preparing any?
Yeah, Preptember, which is supposed to be to help maintainers and open source repos to kind of prep before Hacktoberfest. I think that maybe next week we could start to go through some issues and see which ones could be labeled as good first issues across Cosine and docs, and if we want to add anything else, and maybe just like add some structure there. And in the past, when I have added structure, it has worked pretty well. Erica?
Yes, just one suggestion related to Preptember. We could maybe add some template docs that people using Cosine can also add to their repositories, maybe like how to verify signatures, something around that for people who use Cosine on their projects. I don't know.
Okay, so that would be like for other repos where we want them to adopt Cosine.
Yes, like a way to get more people using, and also explain how to verify the signatures, I think.
Yeah, I like that. I guess that's the other side of this. welcoming folks into our community and building our contributors, but also using Hacktoberfest as a way to maybe make contributions to projects which are open to it, about using signing things.
Yeah, that would be great to add for the Sigstore blog, like a good sign for Hacktoberfest or something like that.
Yeah, I like. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll start a doc, and we'll use that as a central place, but we'll keep it as a agenda item as well. Okay, switching to events. Open Source Europe was last week. I think I saw a bunch of good stuff from there. Anyone who was there who wants to give us a debrief?
I think it was good. There were a lot of talks on S-bombs, a lot of excitement around S-bombs. Sigstore got a whole bunch of shout-outs, including in one of the keynotes, which was very nice, along with some of the other work that the OpenSSF is doing. Bob, did you want to talk about OpenSSF Day?
Yeah, I did a brief session on Sigstore at the beginning of OpenSSF Day on Tuesday, which was well received. I also plugged the aforementioned Python signing announcement, which I think was well received. I know Billy had a couple talks on GitSign and Sigstore. So overall, I would say it was, a lot of shout outs to the community, the work that we're doing. A lot of good discussion. Hayden had a chat on or a talk on privacy preserving features of transparency logs, with I think some interesting thoughts for folks to consider in the context of larger regulatory environments. We had UC Kukkonen also give some talks around the work with Tough, as well as some experiences using Sigstore within the Python community. So lots of good activity that happened last week in Dublin. So I would encourage folks to go look at the recordings or check out the slides.
I think, by the way, recordings will be up in, I think they said 30 days. If you went to the event, you can access the recordings now via the link that went to your email.
Great. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out on that and add those onto the Sigstore channel when they're available. But yeah, no, thanks to everybody who was there and gave talks and participated. Yeah, nice to have you all flying the flag for Sigstore and security in general. Okay, SigstoreCon. So folks may have seen the schedule for SigstoreCon is now out. So many thanks to the program committee for pulling that all together. It's really nice to see. I think we've got like 14 different companies represented in the 12 different talks. So yeah, all sorts of different things. We've got case studies, deep dives, and yeah, specific things around the projects. So yeah, I haven't got an update on registration numbers yet, but do register if you're planning to go. I think we're limited to about 200 in the room. And then the other thing, just to bring your attention to, is Sigstore Awards. So we have nominations for those, I think, are running till the end of today. And then we'll probably close them out and get them in front of the TSC for them to make the final decision. So if you do know contributors, end users, ambassadors, please do go and mention folks' good work and nominate them for a Sigstore award. Sorry, I'll drop the link in afterwards. Any questions on SigstoreCon? Okay, blog posts. I've got a couple in the pipeline from earlier that just need cleaning up and review. So yeah, nothing. I think the main one I have maybe is on the new logos, just making sure we let folks know officially kind of where to find the logos, and that we have switched over and that there are logos available for the sub-projects as well. So just to encourage folks, if they didn't know that already, to be aware and start using the new logos. And Yeah, finally on office hours, just a call for any presentations or things from a user perspective folks have for office hours, let me know for next week. Okay, we've got some any other business. So Marina, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, just a quick announcement. I guess so. At KubeCon on Thursday at 2:30, we're having a Toughen and Toto Contrib Fest, and I'm hoping to get some Sigstore folks there as well, so we can do some work on the kind of the collaborations between all these projects and get everyone in the same room. So if folks are interested, it's an hour and a half long session, but I think the idea is that we can all write some code, get some stuff started. So if anyone's interested, we'd love to have some Sigstore folks around.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thanks for highlighting that. And yeah, actually, I'll keep that. If we write any more blog posts about SigstoreCon, we'll make sure we kind of mention that as well as a follow-up to after.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, Zach.
Yeah, in
Right.
case you're not sick of hearing from me today. So there was one issue and some work on it, and some good work by Frederick that precipitated me asking this question. But I think it's come up over and over again. And it basically is, when we think about Sigstore APIs and data structures and data formats, should we be, we've been defining a lot of those in protocol buffers. And should we be thinking of those primarily as protocol, like as proto interfaces, or primarily as JSON interfaces, which is what they often get serialized to over the network, and might be how they get serialized on disk. And this has a bunch of important implications for mainly how we encode things. So the big one is, like, how do you represent certificates, or like any binary data, right? Bytes data in protos gets base 64 encoded when you serialize it to JSON. And this can sometimes have surprising effects, which have led to, in the past, double base 64 encoding things, which is pretty bad. I think it's pretty unwieldy to work with, and so on. And I think we could make the world of Sigstore a better place by picking one and sticking with it. Sort of saying, we're going to privilege the proto representation and we should make that nice and easy and idiomatic to work with, or we're going to privilege the JSON implementation and we're going to make that nice and easy to work with, relatively. I know how I feel, but I don't want to influence anyone in the room. So I don't have a plan for resolving this question. I just wanted to bring it up, solicit some hot takes, and then maybe after some discussion, I'll propose some next steps towards making a decision. But I guess first, is the problem clear? I know it's a high context thing, but I want to take a moment for clarifying questions. Okay, seeing none, hot takes.
I guess I'll just add a little bit more info about my view, which is a slightly mixed view. I mean, as someone who stares at certificates too much, I guess I have an opinion that, like, certificates as PEM is probably a more standard representation of certificates over the wire than doing encoded DARE. I think for the other fields, we've had a bit of discussion on, should byte arrays become hex encoded or not, and I don't know if that's really standard. I think the answer is probably no. So to me, I'm kind of special casing certificates and maybe keys. I just left a comment around this. For what it's worth, we don't have keys in there right now, so maybe this is a moot point. But just thinking about the PEM does give you the ability to encode a little bit of extra information in the header. And maybe there is some value in that in certain cases. Yeah, I think for what it's worth, we'll probably need to continue having this conversation offline, and maybe set up some time to discuss this a little bit more, I think, with folks who are interested. Just because I don't think we have right now. We have a 1-to-1 vote. Excellent.
I'll weigh in as one of the probably the reasons why this problem exists. And so apologies for your grousing yet again, Zach. I think it's a great point, and ignoring some of the history, what I am passionate about is having APIs that are well documented, explicit, and intuitive. And so I'm less concerned about the protocol semantics unless they cause a dilution of interfaces being poorly documented, poorly described, and not explicit. So I guess I have a preference, which is protobufs, but I could live with a world where JSON is ultimately the standard, as long as we try to make sure that it is well documented, explicit, and well understood. So not that necessarily moves the conversation along a whole lot, but that's my opinion.
Cool. Yeah. So I see a suggestion in chat from Trevor to move this to something like a GitHub discussion, and I think that's a great use of a feature like that, because it's not quite an issue, but it is going to necessitate a bunch of people arguing with each other over text. So I will go ahead and set that up. That's a good way to facilitate, I think, some aggregation of preferences. Tracy tallying people's votes in the chat is perhaps not the most scalable thing in the world. So I'll set that up, link it here, and send it out in Slack.
Great. Sounds good. Any other topics? Otherwise, we're going to move on to introductions. So this is a section for anybody who wants to say hello, introduce yourself if you're new to the community. Yeah, this is your time. Please feel free to use it. Going to give a couple more seconds in case you're unmuting. Thanks, Trevor. Okay, doesn't sound like anyone, so let's leave it there. Thanks everybody for joining. See you next week. Bye.